I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com.
What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up,
What's
bro?
good? Come on, man. It's free agency mania. You know it is crazy. It's been a crazy, 48 hours thus far. We know it's going to get even crazier today and the rest of this week. I'm excited, man. I don't know about you, baby, but this is that fun time of off season right here, man.
Sure. It hasn't even been official yet up to today.
Right. Just the legal tampering period. And we love when we can legally tamper. We appreciate them for allowing this period of tampering so we can get our enlightenment and enjoyment out of it.
It's literally just like the NBA. The first day,
seriously,
you're allowed
man.
to start agreeing to deals. All of a sudden, like within hours, boom, boom, boom. There's been some tampering going on this whole time.
Hey, mega deals, right?
Exactly.
You sit here like, man, okay, the period just opened up. How did you agree to a 6-year, $75 million, fully structured contract within 5 minutes? I don't know how y'all negotiate, but that typically isn't how I've been accustomed to doing it. But to each his own, baby.
I'm sure there's a bunch of nuances and little details within these contracts, too, that you just don't work out in a couple hours like that.
Couple of hours, man. Like you said, they're announcing these within minutes of the tampering period opening up. Insane. But, you know, to each his own. We're not going to pass any judgment. That's not what we do here. That's not what we do. We're just going to tip our cap to the efficiency that we're seeing with these organizations and these players, man.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. But before we deep dive into this, free agency and react to everything, man, first we got to give a big time shout out. So, recently, man, the YouTube channel just went over 20,000 subscribers, man. Big time shout out to everybody that's been rocking with us on this journey. And I figure, it'd be right that we, give the people a little moment of reflection where we sit back and we just think of one of our favorite moments throughout this past time or throughout this process, man. So, I guess for me, I'll go first. I mean, somebody got to kick it off, right? Unless you want to start it off.
I'm good. You go first.
All right. So for me, man, I would probably say one of my favorite moments. Doing the questions when we do the Q&As after the games this season, right? And we would allow the subscribers to come in and give their comments and things like that. And we would get some wacky questions sometimes, but we would also get some dope questions sometimes. And for me, I was just happy that we got a chance to share our story, right? When they asked, hey man, talk about how the greatest podcast came together. We got the opportunity to drop that this year. So it was a dope feeling. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed it. I actually got a chance to rewatch that story, man. It was funny. A person hit me up about it. I'm rewatching the video. I'm just dying like, bro, this is crazy to think like all that transpired. And here we are now, man. So for me, that's one of my favorite moments, man, throughout this journey. And then obviously any of the watch parties. The watch parties have always been just crazy. So yeah.
You kept teasing them on that story too, man. I think you gave like 2 or 3 different openings of
you did too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that was awesome.
Oh my God.
I agree with you. That was a great part of all this. One of mine for sure has definitely been the travel from 2019.
Oh, yes.
Going to AZ, going to San Fran, going even up to Cleveland. Like that was a good time. And then even outside of that, just meeting people in person, doing some of the grassroots stuff we were doing at the tailgates, filming, like that was such a blast. Even getting to go to the games, like
man.
I'm really grateful for those opportunities too. Like remember the Rams game? Like that was crazy.
Dude, that was nuts.
Yeah, so that's probably it for me. That's a lot of the stuff I've missed in 2020, but honestly, maybe this time without it is going to make us appreciate it that much more.
Hey, man, you're 100% right. And yes, indeed, the tailgates were insane. I mean, like you said, some of our funnest stories have come on when we were traveling to some of these games. We were just like, bro, did that really happen? Like, you remember that night? Like, yo, you remember what yeah, it was crazy, man. Crazy. We need more of these. So hopefully this year we'll be able to make that grand return because it's going to be crazy, baby. It's everybody been cooped up for a while now. We ready.
There's
We're
some
ready.
primetime road games too.
It is, bro. Like we got interest in a lot of these games, man. Big time games. So come on, people. Let's get this thing happening, man. Let's make 2021 back how it's supposed to be, baby. Traveling, living our best lives.
Agreed.
Yes, indeed, man. But like I said, man, big time shout out to everybody that's been rocking with the movement, man. And shoot, man, we just continuing to keep this thing rolling. I mean, we still babies in this thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But now we get to talk about the fun stuff, baby. I mean, even though that was fun, we get to talk about some more fun stuff in terms of Steelers free agency, man. And we've seen a lot of movement as it pertains to Steelers free agency. Just maybe not in the direction that we would like to be seeing this movement going in. Instead of it, us receiving a lot, we're giving a lot away. But either way, we'll give you the full update. And then after that, we'll just kind of react to these deals that we have listed because these are kind of the marquee names from our free agency thus far. So players that we were able to retain. Cam Sutton, we were able to re-sign him to a 2-year, $9 million deal. Like the deal a lot, actually, man. But we're going to dive into it a little bit more. I almost backtracked what I just said.
It seems like that happened a week ago or a month ago.
Ain't that the truth, right? Cam Sutton, 2-year, $9 million deal. Then they were able to retain Zach Banner on another 2-year, $9.5 million deal. And then obviously they tendered Robert Spillane. I wasn't sure if we were able to get that in on our previous episode. I don't think we did.
We talked about it briefly when we were discussing Avery Williamson.
Yeah, because I think what ended up happening too was they tendered him, but it wasn't signed at the time, whereas now everything's officially done. He is tendered. He is under contract. And then obviously we talked about Marcus Allen in the previous episode as well. Now for the players that we have lost, obviously Vince Williams was the big release yesterday. Then from there, Tyson Alualu, who's a little bit of a surprise here. He went to Jacksonville on a 2-year, $6 million deal. Shout out to my dog, Money Mike Hilton. Signs with the Cincinnati Bengals on a 4-year, $24 million deal. Then we had Matt Filer. Shout out to Matt Filer. Man, if you haven't heard his interview, definitely check it out. He signed with the Chargers on a 3-year, $21 million deal. And then my dog, Mr. Bud Dupree, went out there and broke the bank with Tennessee Titans, 5-year, $82.5 million. I almost cried a tear of joy. That's my dog right there. I was so happy for that, man. So those are the current deals that have been done. Thus far, we're still obviously keeping track of everything, as is very fluid right now, as you can imagine. But to start, we will react to the guys that we re-signed first, and then from there, we'll talk about the guys that we've lost. So to start out with Cam Sutton, the 2-year, $9 million deal, as I was alluding to earlier, I do like that deal. I think that money-wise, it pays him good, in terms of giving him that substantial pay bump from what he was getting under his rookie contract. But at the same time, it's still a little bit of a transitional deal, meaning he's going to get an opportunity to show that he could be the number 1 slot corner. If injuries happen, he's going to get an opportunity to bounce out there and play the number 1 or number 2 cornerback slot as well. But the way the deal is structured, the team also has the flexibility that if after 1 year Cam balls out to that extent, they can sign him to a longer deal, more substantial deal, which will probably be a lot more cap friendly as well going forward. So with that being the case for Cam Sutton, I like it. I am a little bit leery of the thought process that, he's just this major upgrade for Mike Hilton, because as we said before, different styles. We thought Mike Hilton fit what they wanted to do a lot better, but organizationally, the Steelers have always viewed Mike Hilton as the better player because he always gets the opportunities before Cam Sutton. It was never Cam Sutton's job and then Mike Hilton came in and took it from him. It was always Mike Hilton's job. So I just, I'm interested to see how my dog responds to this role of now you are the guy at slot corner and potentially going to be bumping out to even bigger role than that. So how do you respond to that? It'll be interesting, but I do think I think he's ready for the challenge though.
Yeah, agreed. It's either that or the Steelers also think very highly of James Pierre.
Very true. Yeah.
So I'm with you, dude. I really like the deal. We talked about it on the last podcast. I was worried that we were going to lose both Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, so I'm happy that we got one of them back. At the $4.5 million per year, 2 years, $9 million, I think that was maybe a little bit more than we were expecting, though. Which I'm not opposed to at all.
But hold on. Remember, though, we said that his market could be anywhere from 2 to 3 to 6 to 7, just depending on how teams viewed him and in terms of, what was more intriguing about him, his slot corner versatility or his ability to go out there and play on the outside as a 1 or 2 corner. And we also know he could play safety. We said some teams might pay a little bit more for that if they are really intrigued by that. But it was good to see that the Steelers actually valued what he brought to the table and compensated him in that. He's kind of in the middle of what we spoke about from a number standpoint at that 4.5 range. So it's good to see that the Steelers at least respected him enough to want to pay him to that level and not let him be gone as well, because this dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, because this dude, we've seen him, even though he was never the main slot corner because we had Mike Hilton, he was very impactful and played a ton of snaps these past couple of years. So it was definitely good to see them be able to retain him because, as we already listed some of these other names, we did lose some key contributors defensively.
And you mentioned this. It doesn't really seem like a deal that has much risk because the cap hit for this season is around $2 million.
Yep.
So I'm assuming they spaced out the rest of the cap hit for next season. I don't know what that would be, probably like $7 million, $7 million. But if, like you said, they could start renegotiating for a longer deal next season, then there's that aspect. But also, even if you just want to let the deal play out, it's not like we're going to lose a ton of value with Cam Sutton next year. We're going to have a lot more cap space. So if it is a $6 or $7 million hit, I don't think it's going to be that detrimental as it would be if that was transferred over to this year.
No, man, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And that's the bigger reason why we were like, I really like that deal, because money wise, the team has flexibility, but at the same time, Cam gets his compensation. But at the same time, like I said, for the team, if they want to move on in a year, they can move on. If they want to extend him in a year, they can move in and extend him as well. And it's not one of those deals that you're looking and you're saying, gosh, man, you just killed us what we're trying to do, for the next year or two if this doesn't work out. This type of deal doesn't do that. So, yeah, I definitely like it, man. Definitely do.
Yeah, and there's that aspect of let's see what Cam Sutton can do.
Because he could
and I'm excited
flourish,
about
right?
that a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He could definitely flourish. I went back and was watching him when he played outside corner that last game, week 17 against the Browns, and he looked good. He looked good. So to me, I'm definitely excited about him. And remember, he has definitely played well on the outside. So not only, does he give us that reassurance at slot corner, but I definitely could see him potentially being in the works, if not this year, because obviously you still have Joe and Steven, but that will make this team a lot more confident that he could potentially take on one of those roles a year from now if they want to make any more moves from a cap standpoint. So like I said, keeping a guy like that in-house, I definitely like.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So now the next one, Zach Banner, 2 years, $9.5 million. So I think this answers the question in terms of how we feel or how the organization feels about Zach Banner and his tackle position. Now, from a cap standpoint, his deal is very similar to Cam Sutton's in terms of it only counting about $2 million on the cap this year. But I don't think any of us thought that, Zach would be paid to this level. Now, good for Zach, man. It's definitely good to see him get paid. And if you haven't checked out that interview, Lord, please check that one out, because that thing is crazy.
With us, too.
When he hopped on. Yeah. No. Come on, man. We're talking about with us. But definitely check out that interview. But as a whole, I think this was a little bit of a surprise just because he doesn't have a lot of play and productivity at this level at this stage in his career. Obviously, him and Chooks, they battled it out last year. He was able to win it. People debated whether, he really wanted or if it was kind of a 50-50. All right, let Zach get the first opportunity. But we know Zach went down. He got hurt, 2 quarters into that game. So we never got a chance to see him. And that was at the right tackle spot. But to see him get this type of contract after 2 quarters, it's like, whoa, all right. This team must really, really be believing in him. So I'm going to trust the team on this one. But yeah, I think this contract definitely says that he's going to either be our left or right tackle. He's going to be in contention for both of those spots at least.
If he becomes a bona fide left tackle, though, the deal's really solid. It just goes back to what you said. We just don't really have any evidence of that. He played really solid as that 6th offensive lineman in 2019. But
tackle extra 72 is eligible, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. But as a bona fide starter, I wasn't expecting this type of money. I thought it was a foregone conclusion, like $1 million or two. That was it.
I think a lot of us thought that. And I think that's why the reaction was what it was with social media. Obviously you're happy for Zach because that's the thing that kind of gets lost when we break down the deals. It makes it, sometimes you can make it come off like you're critiquing a player or that person personally. And it's like, no. You want to see everybody get their money. You want to see everybody be successful. But from the business standpoint of it, when you're talking about other needs and some of these players that, were able to leave, or other free agents that are getting signed for similar deals that have a lot more productivity associated with them, that's when you start looking and you're just like, was that necessarily the best way to allocate those resources? Or could we have got him a little bit cheaper and use that money to potentially either keep somebody in-house or go out there and acquire somebody, and bring them in? So that was the part to me that was a little bit interesting. But with Zach, I mean, he has the pedigree, right? We talked about him coming out of USC. We said that, man, this is a high pedigree guy that should have been a first or second rounder. Obviously, his shortcomings in terms of his weight management caused him to fall in the draft and ultimately caused him to get released early on. But since he's been in Pittsburgh, he's definitely improved himself. Like you said, him as the extra O-lineman, he was dominant at times, right? Became a folk hero, right? Everybody went crazy. 72 was eligible. But now we're going to see Kenny put it together for a full 16-game season as a starting right or left tackle. But his deal is very similar to Cam Sutton's as well, meaning if it works out and he balls out this year, will you have the flexibility to extend him and ultimately make that cap hit even better, whatever it may be next year? You're able to make it a lot better, if you want to extend him, if he does live up to the expectations and things like that. So I'm not opposed to it, man, but it definitely was a little bit head scratching to see the dollar amount associated with it.
Yeah, I just assumed he was going to be back. Do you know the dead cap money on this deal and the Cam Sutton deal? I know the cap hit.
I just know the cap hit for this year. Yeah, I just know the cap hits for this year. I haven't seen the second year details.
Yeah, can you reverse that in a way where like the dead cap, even though the cap hit is smaller this year and the dead cap is lower next year? I don't know how they can do some of these contracts.
Hey, it's the reason why Omar Khan is Omar Khan. It's the reason why he gets paid what he gets paid. And it's the reason why I don't, because I don't want to know that capology to that extent. I don't want to, that made my hair hurt just thinking about, all right, dead cap times the cap. All right, but then we got to factor in this. Oh, and then we got to adjust for the slides. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with none of that. I'm good.
So our sentiment with Banner is good for him. Little shocking. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully he becomes that bona fide left tackle or right tackle.
Absolutely. Trust me.
We need it. That's the thing. In terms of offensive line, we need it. Yes. And if Mike Tomlin believes in Banner like that and says that he's the answer, it's just like, okay, let's see it then.
Hey, 100%.
If that's what happens, I'm good with the deal, for sure. I think any of us would be.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, right? We all want and need Zach Banner to live up or exceed the expectations. And you remember when Zach came on our show and he talked about what type of tackle Coach Tomlin said he was, one of the $50 million guys, right? So if that's truly the case, this is a small step in that direction. And hopefully, this is going in that direction. That's what I truly believe with him, just based on, like I said, Coach Tomlin's belief in him. So we're going to see, but it definitely makes me a little uneasy because I'm just like, gosh, he's coming off the ACL. We haven't seen a ton of productivity from him at this level at right or left tackle. And we've already highlighted the significance of the O-line as it pertains to Ben Roethlisberger play. We can't have another repeat. We can't. We all know this. So it's like, Zach, we trust you a lot right here, baby. A lot. Please don't crash the car.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, indeed. And then the last one we talked about was Robert Spillane. Now he signed his tender, so it's good to see that he will be back. And for me, man, I think this makes perfect sense. We talked about where Spillane was from a contract standpoint, this was going to be the best option for him. And I mean, the team believes in him, right? We saw where he was able to come in and make some plays, right? And then even hold off Avery Williamson while he was healthy and then come back and take the spot back from Avery in that wild card game. So it's going to be interesting to see, if he can continue that play, if he can continue to be more of what we saw in that earlier span before he got hurt and less about that wild card game where he struggled a little bit. But it's one of them things, man, because we said before when we talked about Avery in terms of our confidence with this linebacker group, if Avery were to leave and if Vince Williams were to get released, and now that scenario is here, I don't like our core right now. I don't. I think that we definitely need to make some, whether it's free agency or draft, I think we got to add another piece to that room. Devin Bush coming back from ACL surgery, Robert Spillane, we talked about him a little bit. UG3, still very young, still hasn't had a lot of availability. And then we know with Marcus Allen, we say he's more of a converted guy, right? That makes me a little nervous, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm as it sits here, March 17th, 2021, I'm definitely nervous with that group going forward. Now, they could surprise us. And Spillane could continue to play the way that he had played earlier on. If that's the case, then we'll be fine. But if not, we could struggle a little bit. We could definitely struggle a little bit. So that's my only thing with that. I think Spillane coming back is a huge asset, though. You definitely want to keep people like that there. But I think we got to make another move.
Am I wrong for just feeling a little bit more optimistic than you? A little bit excited of that Devin Bush, Robert Spillane potential, or even Marcus Allen being that third guy. Mm-hmm. I do like Spillane probably more if he is the guy that you rotate in a little bit. But, man, I don't know what it is, man, because we lost Devin Bush. And with Spillane coming in and playing like he did, I'm just thinking if we can combine both playing at a high level, it could be interesting, man.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. The common denominator for both Devin Bush balling out the way that he did and when Robert Spillane was balling out, the guy that was beside them a lot of the times was Vince Williams. He's the communicator. He's the guy that sets everything. He's the guy that flies down and makes all the action happen from a run game standpoint. We talked about how he was leading the league in tackles for loss for a large majority of the season. We saw how the defense struggled mightily, both from a communication standpoint and from a physicality standpoint when he was out. That's my only thing. I'm like, I hear it. I want to go there with you, but I can't lie to myself like that. I just know what type of player Vince was and what he brought to the table and how playing next to a guy like that can make you play a lot faster. We talked about even Avery Williamson. We saw when he was out there with Vince, he played a lot faster, looked a lot better. When Vince wasn't out there with him, struggled a little bit because now you got to think a lot more. Now you got to pick up the lion's share of a communication standpoint, both pre-snap and post-snap. It's different. It's a lot different. And then, like I said, none of those guys brought to the table what Vince brought to the table from a physicality standpoint, play in and play out. We know Robert Spillane had the big hit against Derrick Henry, but his play is still different than what we expect from a Vince Williams on a snap in and snap out basis. So that's my only thing. I do think, obviously, that Spillane, Marcus Allen, UG3, they give you a lot more from an athletic ability standpoint, but from a above the net game of just physicality, tone setter standpoint, we definitely lost that in Vince. And we don't have that on the roster at linebacker right now.
Sure. That's definitely fair.
Yeah. And we need an identity. We saw what that identity looked like in the wildcard game when we weren't physical on defense, when we weren't physical against the run, where we weren't, this, we're going to smash you in the mouth type of defense. It looked bad. It looked really bad. And right now, I'm just looking, I'm just like, man, we don't have that thumper. We don't have that person that's going to make you scared to run against us. And in our division right now, Baltimore wants to do what? Run the ball. The Cleveland Browns want to do what? They want to run the ball. We know with the Bengals, they're a little different, but they still got a man ever running back at Joe Mixon as well. So to me, that's the only thing that makes me just, like I said, a little leery, and why I feel that we need to bring somebody else in. Just another piece. Now, it could be a veteran that's a backup.
Okay.
And I'll be fine with that as long as you're doing the rotation, kind of like what you said, right? With Spillane and those guys. But if you're not planning on doing that, then you definitely got to get you a guy, whether it's earlier in the draft or something. But I feel like we're a little thin right there, man.
Would you be good with third round?
I mean,
or is that too late?
I don't. Just know the later you go, what you're going to be expecting from that. Don't expect
it's with anything, though, because if we wait on left tackle or center, then it's going to be the same situation.
Exactly. So you pick your poison, right? I feel like since you give Banner the deal that you give to that they gave him, I think now you see linebacker potentially earlier on. I don't think it wasted third. I think it could be 1 or 2 now because the way they gave that contract to Banner, that says, hey, he is your answer at tackle. So you could look at center or guard, and depending on how the organization feels about JC and BJ, that might determine, they might be saying, well, hey, we don't need to get a guy.
True. Are we going to keep
second round there?
Would we keep 3 centers? Although BJ is more of guard and center, he's more of a hybrid. Yeah. But still, I mean, we got 2 guys on the roster right now.
It's only one guy that the 2 JC and BJ both play center and guard. So if you're the team, you might be looking at them and saying, hey, we feel confident in whatever combination we use between BJ, JC, Dotson, and DeCastro that we think will be fine on the interior part. We got Banner. He's going to step up and play left tackle. And we obviously got Chooks at right tackle. They might be confident going forward with that. And if that's the case, then we could easily see linebacker at 1. I mean, what's up, Zaven Collins? I mean, we might see that,
For sure. Like, either that or running back then, because offensive line, maybe you could wait a little bit longer on that if that's what they're thinking. Now, how do we feel as fans and analysts of that? It is what it is, but
I mean, this is my only thing. That it is what it is. It makes me nervous because we talked about with 7, he needs time. Is that going to give him the most time? That's what we got to find out, man.
Right. We'll see. You could spin it all in a positive way, man. Dotson having a coming out party in his sophomore year. Banner living up to his potential.
Okay.
Maybe BJ Finney or JC Hassenauer being like just a solid starter. DeCastro turning back the clock. And then Chooks just playing solid. You can spin it that way. But all the things have to align.
It's a lot of spinning. That's all I'm saying. That's a lot of spinning, baby. But hey, we're going to hope for the best, right? We should definitely hope for the best. But you can just see how one could be very concerned about the state of the offensive line going forward if no other movements were made. You can just see how one could have that opinion. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah. But now as we transition to the guys that we lost, Vince Williams, man, that sucks. I definitely understood why they did it from a cap standpoint, saved them some good money. They're able to, have a little bit more flexibility right now in terms of being in compliance with the cap, even though we are still very close to that number.
We're
still in compliance. No,
like
right
over?
Now.
Or under,
no.
I'm sorry.
Right now, we are, when I went to sleep last night, we were $480,000 under the cap.
This was after the Vince Williams release.
That was after the Vince release, and because that included the Zach Banner and Cam Sutton deals as well. So we're under the cap. We're good, but we don't have a lot of money right now, as you can see. So it'll be interesting to see, if they start doing a little bit more restructures here and there. Stuff like that, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're going to have to see ultimately what plays out. And also, I got to see in terms of how they classify Vince's release, too. It's certain things that they can do that can help out with the numbers as well. So, but once again, I don't get paid for that. Shout out to Omar Khan. Omar, make the numbers work. Make them work. All right? That's what you got to do. Make it work.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little bit more than $4 million in the cap savings.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like 6 or 7.
I did too, man. I did too. A lot of us did. But I wonder... Well, and I don't wonder. It's because of how fluid these other deals are that are taking place with the Steelers. Why is updating like that? Clearly, we're always going to be a little bit behind the organization, and rightfully so, because they are the organization, and versus the information that comes out from the cap stuff. As we saw, these guys have already known what the numbers were going to be, or at least what it was beforehand, whereas we always get the aftermath, right? Once it finally is released, then we get a chance to react to it. And then by then, they've already done another deal here and there. So as you can see, it's very fluid.
Sure.
But as a whole, man, I highlighted, Vince Williams, his impact a little bit with Robert Spillane. Man, this is a dude that sets the tone, though. This is a guy that was the heart and soul of that defense. Granted, TJ were the playmakers, right? TJ, Bud, Cam, those are playmakers. Minka. Vince is the one who sets that tone, though, man. Vince is the one that gets those guys where they need to be. And Vince is the identity, right? That physical nature, that element that he brought to the table, both in the run game and as a pass rusher as well. This is a loss that will be felt as the roster currently stands. But at the same time, we do understand that, he was more of your old school type linebacker, whereas the game is definitely shifting. But at the same time, we know you can't get away from that physical nature. You got to have players like him, man. But definitely appreciate his time, man. Obviously, 8 years here in Pittsburgh, balled out, did his thing, and a former teammate of mine. So you already know that's my dog. So I'm happy, for his tenure here. But I'm excited to see what happens to him going forward as well, man.
Yeah, there is the one element of him being the old school linebacker where you're not as mad about moving on just because you see where the league is going. But then I've been watching some of these old highlights from past season.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, those first 3 weeks, Vince Williams just completely balled out. The problem wasn't the run stopping or getting in the backfield or the pressure. The problem early on was some of those miscommunications and things going on in the secondary. So when our defense was right, Vince Williams was a really nice complementary piece to everyone else, like the stars that we had around him. Like you said, Vince Williams sets the tone with the physicality, and you're right. As much as Spillane had that big hit on Henry, Vince Williams does it 2 or 3 times a game.
Absolutely. He's the tone setter, man. The tone setter, the beacon of communication. He gives you all of that, or at least that's what he gave you. And even though the league has been trending towards more of a passing style league, we see the teams that ultimately have success are the ones that are able to do what? Get physical with you and run the ball. We talked about the Bucks. What did they do this year? They would get you in a 2 tight end set and run the ball. All the teams, I mean, we obviously highlighted the Chiefs, but even when the Chiefs won it all, they still were able to run the ball. You got to be able to run the ball. And on the flip side, defensively, you got to be able to smash the run. So as much as we love to get these athletes out here and, former safeties and put them in the box, and this isn't a slight at, Marcus Allen, because I know we talked about him earlier, but typically those guys lack that physical brand, that toughness that you need to play inside backer, play in and play out. And that's ultimately what Vince would bring to the table. And you can pair a thumper like that with one of those smaller, undersized, speed type linebackers. But to put 2 of those guys out there together, now you can see where it could become a little bit of an issue, especially against the run. And we saw that at times last year. We definitely saw that. So that's why I'm just like, I understand the trend of the league, but we also know the teams that are continuing to have success, they can run the ball and they run it whenever they want to run it. And if we can't stop that, that doesn't make us any closer to the top.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. All right. Another surprise, though, man, with Tyson Alualu taking his talents back to where they started, man, back in 2010. Shout out to my draft class brother right there. But back to Jacksonville on a 2 for $6. I was definitely surprised by this, more so because of the money element. I definitely thought that was something that we could have matched, could have definitely had spent that type. But depending on how the team views him at this stage, because obviously he'll be going on 34. Depends on how they view him in terms of, well, would you rather pay him a 2 for $6, or are you confident that Isaiah Buggs and Carlos Davis and Henry Mondeau can come in and, give you the type of play that Tyson was giving you? We'll find out about it. I'm a little bit skeptical of it just because it's hard to do that. You know what I mean? In terms of how long he had been playing, the veteran savviness, what he was able to do. That doesn't just, happen with younger, rookie, later round prospects. But the Steelers, they're their organization for a reason, right? They make these moves for a reason. They see these guys on a day-to-day basis. So, hopefully they're right with this. But this definitely made me a little uneasy as well.
Yeah, what's interesting to me about all the moves and departures, maybe it's unique this year for whatever reason because it's more than usual, but Steelers do have a pretty decent track record with this. As much as we do kind of want to be concerned and maybe be a little bit critical of this, like, yo, what's going on, man? These guys were staples. They do have a pretty good track record of knowing when to let go of guys. I mean, there's always going to be outliers like Emmanuel Sanders. He did really good with Denver. At the same time, it's not like we had a big loss at our receiving core because obviously AB started to step up. And we know what was going on in those I don't even know what you would call them, mid 2010 years, how the offense was looking. So, I don't know, man. I am a little bit surprised because we talked about this a little bit. We thought Tyson would stay because you mentioned he's building his roots here in Pittsburgh. But I guess if there was one team for him to go to, Jacksonville makes sense because it was his former team. So he has something established there.
It's no place like home, man. It's no place like home. He started out his career there. You think he played, let's see, because he came in Pittsburgh my 4th year here, so 2017. So he played, 7-8 years down there prior to coming here. So that's a long time. And then, you stay here in Pittsburgh for 2 years, or is it 2? No, 3 years now, right? So he stays for roughly 3 years. Yeah, obviously you can still, enjoy it, but that 7 to 8 years of the initial spot, it's a little bit different, right? So it is good to see that, he'll be ending it where it all started for him, man. But yeah, I definitely was like, oh man, not my dog Tyson, man. Come on now.
Yeah, at $3 million a year, We talked about that would probably be his range, $2 or $3 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we thought it was just going to be a done deal that he comes back. But then now that he's left, I don't know if it's hindsight or not, or we're just going to have to wait and see this season. Was that a good move? I mean, that's with any of these, but I'm leaning right now, just now that everything has happened and now that we know, all right, these guys are moving on, or this is the money that he's gotten. I'm leaning like, okay, I'm a little bit confident in the Steelers with some of these. Now, you know, we talked about the Banner move. Was that one a little bit more based off upside? In terms of the people that have left, I think I'm leaning a little bit more that, okay, Steelers got a pretty decent track record with this. I'm not going to go completely crazy about it.
I hope you're right. That's all those. I just hope you're right, man. But time will tell. That's the beauty of it. Time will definitely tell. Now, our next dude right here, though. My man got paid, Lil Mike Hilton, baby. Obviously, we talked about him to the Bengals, 4-year, $24 million. I'm kind of on the fence about this one. We talked about him and Cam Sutton. Obviously, we thought that might fit our scheme better, but we say you get a lot more versatility with Cam Sutton, right? Being able to play inside and outside and at safety. But this one, I feel like, maybe because it's in the division. Maybe that's why. I feel like we lost a piece and they got a piece. Granted, it's the Bengals, so I don't feel like they were as close to us compared to like the Browns or the Ravens, but it's like, dog, gosh, you're taking a piece and then you're giving us some help. Come on, baby, don't do it to us both ways now. No. But as a whole, man, I think this is probably the one where I'm the most confident we'll be okay going forward. As it pertains to Tyson, Vince, Filer, and Dupree, my sentiments are very different around them. But with Mike Hilton, more so because I know Cam Sutton. It's a proven commodity. We've seen it. Even though it has been a 4-year sample size, these past 2 years have been really good from Cam. That's why for me, it's like, I don't have to speculate if he can do this. We don't have to worry about, is this guy going to hit this productive streak out the blue? Is he going to do something we've never seen him do before? I don't want miracles. I don't like miracles right now. I want consistency. You feel me? When we talk about, we speak on some of these other players, it sounds real miracle-less. It's like, all right, if this works and that works and this works, then yeah. I don't like that. That's too many moving pieces for me. This right here is simple. Mike Hilton gone? Okay, cool. We know Cam Sutton. I know that's going to ball. That's why I feel very confident in this.
Well, it's funny, too, because a lot of people would probably put Mike Hilton 1 or 2 in terms of the free agent needs that the Steelers had. Yep. But because you name Vince Williams, you name Filer, you name who else did you name in terms of lost? Tyson Alualu.
But
no one's thinking about that. But if you're talking about the people that we have behind in those positions, it's just funny because Mike Hilton's the way bigger name. He's made way more bigger of a splash with the Pittsburgh Steelers over these past few seasons.
Yep.
But based off position, I think you're right, man. It's tough because he did fit this style of play with the Steelers, with the blitzing and some of the physicality and the versatility that he brought. At the same time, were we going to be able to bring him back for $6 million? Now all of a sudden, and this is what makes me think: did the Steelers know something about Justin Lane or James Pierre that we don't? Because in a way, if they believe in those guys, bringing back Mike Hilton would almost stunt that potential growth that they have at a friendlier number money-wise. So that's it.
I guess for me, the only reason why I don't share that sentiment is when I look at Justin Lane, how many snaps has he taken defensively throughout this time? How many opportunities has he had when Cam Sutton might have been down, or when Mike Hilton might have been down, or when Joe Hayden was dealing with his situation? They passed up on Justin Lane to go with who? James Pierre. We didn't know about James Pierre until he got in there and started to make some things happen. So with that makes me start to be a little bit more leery of how the organization views Justin Lane. Because, I mean, if anything, dude, the pedigree alone should have gave him the opportunities, right? Just based on where he was drafted at. But he was never getting those opportunities, and they passed him up for an undrafted guy, right?
Well, maybe that's what I mean. Well, I said Lane and Pierre, but maybe they're really high on Pierre then.
okay, but even if you're really high on Pierre, I'm just trying to figure out in terms of, is James Pierre, I don't know, man. You're a lot more optimistic about James than I am. Well, we'll just leave it at that.
I have to be now. I have to be.
Say, God. I guess this is where we differ, right? In these scenarios, you lean towards optimism to help you get through it. For me, I lean towards just the realism of it. And yeah, it's like the expectations continue to go down, but it's better that way for me because if they come out here and surprise me, great. I would much rather they surprise me and I give them the reaction to me being surprised for them than my expectations be high for them. And then they let me down. And then I got to give you my expectations once you've let me down. Drastically different. So that's why for me, I'm just going to tailor myself now. I'm not going on the duck roller coaster again. I've done that. I'm not doing it. I refuse to. You tried to sell me on duck. Remember, you shout out to my man Banger with Steeler Gang. Yo, I mean, didn't Chevy the home? Chevy came up here and tried to sell us on it. I'm sitting here. I was over here like, all right, okay. And then I finally hop on the train and we see what it looked like. I was like, nope, nah, bruh. You ain't getting me again. All right. So as much as y'all trying to sell me on James Pierre, I don't even know him personally. I think he's a good kid. I like his game on tape. But me liking it and loving it are different. Very, very different. I like it in the short sample size. I like it in, unison with everybody else. I don't know how I feel about that by itself just yet. I don't. So that's why for me, I'm just like, I'm going to just tailor it down. I'm going to just say, you know what? We'll see what happens. I hope that he can, live up to these expectations that are going to be put on him by some people. But for me, I just don't like this situation all the way. Trust the organization though, right? Trust the process. That's what they say. Trust the process.
Listen, there's no other option, man.
My goodness,
there's some things floating around on Twitter. As soon as Mike Hilton left, all of a sudden they were talking about Chase Claypool and Mike Hilton. He's going to be mossing him. And that's what we got to go with, man. He's on the other team. You leave. You're not on the Steelers anymore. We say, good for you. Got the money. We got to move on, though. This is who we have.
You know what I had a vision of? And it sucked, right? Chase Claypool lined up in the slot. Mike Hilton matched up on him. Primetime, first Monday night game of the year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike Hilton's first return to Pittsburgh. So he's lined up across from Chase Claypool. Obviously, they're yapping a little bit back and forth. You got Banner at left tackle. Mike Hilton doing what he does, right? He's playing the game of, am I coming or am I in coverage? Am I coming or am I in coverage? And Banner thinks that he's in coverage. Claypool doesn't alert Ben. Claypool raises his hand like he's open for a pass. Zach Banner blocks down on the 5 technique. Mike Hilton comes through, blasts Ben, strip sack. Ben hurts his arm and is done for the year. And we suck and we lose again. That's what I just saw. All right. That's Mike Hilton to me.
Come on, bro.
I'm just, all right. I understand how Steelers Nation do it. I got you. I'm with you. But just know it can go both ways with these, how that energy should be. And you know how he do it. Am I blissing? No, I'm covered. And then he blasts you. So, just be careful. I done seen him do a lot better, people worse. That's all I'm saying. How many tackles have you fooled? He's right and left tackles. He fools everyone. We know this.
He's good at the blitz, man.
No, not good. Elite at the blitz. It's a difference. And we've seen
Bengals might misutilize him though. Who knows?
Yeah, that's hoping. That's a lot of hope right there. That's a lot of hope.
Bengals don't have a good track record though for any of this.
You said what now?
Bengals don't have the best track record of
They got a whole new staff.
I understand that.
You can't put Marvin Lewis's regime and their shortcomings on the new staff. Come on, man. They've been there for what, 2 years, 3 years now? You can't put that on them.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that's definitely possible too.
I felt like it was more of a possibility with the old regime. I think with this new regime, it's a little bit different. That's all I'm saying, man.
Sure.
I mean, because they could make the same case about us, right? In terms of, are we even going to utilize Chase Claypool the right way? I mean, the past regime, you saw how we utilized him, especially towards the end of the year. He became almost non-existent in the offense at times. Is that going to continue? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what you just put on the Bengals. That's what you're putting on, It's different. Yeah, it's different.
We're going to have to.
Yeah. But it's going to be crazy. Gosh. But either way, it's the Bengals. And the Bengals will always be the Bengals. They're going to find a way to mess it up. So I'm with you on that. Hopefully that can continue. But yes, shout out to my dog, Mike Hilton. But yeah, he's the one that, like I said, I don't think that that's going to hurt us as much because of Cam Sutton already being in house.
Sure.
Now, this next guy, he definitely got paid handsomely. Some people were a little surprised though with Matt Filer, the 3-year, $21 million deal. I feel like this was right on par for him though, man. Being able to play right tackle for 16 games and be good at it. Being able to start at left guard for 16 games and be good at it. You see the positional flexibility. We know O-line is a need for every team. Everybody needs protection. And he gives you that both, like I said, at tackle or at guard. So to know the Chargers had the money to do this, and it puts him back with Sean Surratt, who coached him here when he was the O-line coach, as the head O-line coach. Obviously, he was under Mike Munchak as well. So him and Matt Filer have a long rapport as well. So to me, man, I think this makes perfect sense for Matt. I think that he'll be fine out there, whichever position they want him at, tackle or guard. But for us, that goes back to kind of what we already spoke about, right? With this one, I feel a little bit more confident because you have Dotson. Knowing that that's in-house, that definitely gives me a little bit more peace of mind there. We're hoping that DeCastro, like I said, was just injuries last year, right? We'll see, though. Time will definitely tell with that. In terms of him going back to right tackle, Chooks was fine to me out there. And I don't know. We haven't seen Matt play left tackle. So I can't speak on him transitioning to left tackle like that. No different than how I feel about Zach Banner. It's like I can't speak on these guys confidently making that transition when I've never seen them do it at this level and understanding how tough of a position it is at this level. Like, that's just reckless. And it would be less reckless with Matt because at least Matt has shown that he can start at this level for 16 games at multiple positions. I think it would be even more reckless to speculate that Zach Banner could do it because we haven't seen not even a glimpse of him being able to do it to that extent. But with both of these guys, we'll just keep the same energy and hope for the best. But I do feel a lot more confident that Matt Filer will be able to do what he does. But you can see the hole that it creates or the need that it could potentially create if Zach Banner and some of these other guys can't live up to that expectation.
Or get injured.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Because that ultimately derailed him last year, right? Regardless of how you felt he was playing in that Giants game, because people are split on it. Some people think that he was playing well. Some people thought he was struggling. To each his own, right? But as a whole, the injuries, you blow your knee out.
Not even Banner, just anyone.
Yeah. Because obviously that was what they said was the issue with DeCastro as well. So, yeah, you got to be able to stay healthy right now. And obviously, think about what Dotson last year. Dotson came in due to injury, but then Dotson also left due to injury. And that's how JC got an opportunity to play guard as well. So a lot of these guys, that does happen that way. But now we're tapping into these depth pieces. These depth pieces have become starting pieces right now. That's why it's a little different. That's all.
So with Chooks versus Filer at right tackle, you're right. We have Dotson at guard, and that was Matt Filer's main position last year. You don't. Yeah. So at $7 million with Matt Filer, you don't think there's that much of a drop off, or it's not worth spending that $7 million for what we have at Chooks with right tackle?
No. So this is the thing. Chooks is a really good player, right? He showed that he could play well. I think both of those guys are good right tackles. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's different in the sense of my skepticism surrounding Banner is because we didn't get the chance to see him have a Chooks type season. We only saw him for 2 quarters. And for 2 quarters to get the money that he got, and then you have confidence that he can go play a totally different position that typically is harder, that's where I get a little bit more nervous. Whereas with Matt and Chooks, we've seen Chooks not just last year. We saw Chooks come in as a rookie, right? And go up against Von Miller in Denver on the road and hold his own. So we've seen numerous times where Chooks has done what he's supposed to do. So, yeah, I feel a lot more confident. And I'll be saying to myself, why would I pay Matt that to stay when we have Chooks? But trust me, Chooks is going to be a guy that if he stays healthy, he'll double what Matt got, triple it probably.
No way, that's what
really? Absolutely, yes. Chooks is a better athlete in terms of the size, the footwork. Absolutely. Matt is built more like, he's built like a guard, but he's a better right tackle, if that makes sense, Like, he's shorter, not the longest arms, squatty, super strong, right? A beast of a man. But he's definitely built more to play guard, but he is a better right tackle, if that makes sense.
Some way.
Whereas with Chooks, Chooks is built to play tackle. He looks like a tackle. Like, he can move like it. He has the long arms, the sweet feet, the size to hold up against the bull rush and things like that. So Chooks is going to be a guy. If he stays healthy, yeah, no different than how Marcus Gilbert got paid. Chooks would be on that exact same trajectory. Exact same to me.
That's interesting because remember in the Ravens game, they had Chooks is like rated the worst offensive tackle or the worst right tackle. PFF did. But everything we've talked about up to that point was Chooks was playing pretty solid.
Yeah. But think about PFF was the same ones. Then at one time they had, I think Al was rated as like, no, it was either Al or Pouncey. They were rated as like the top 2 or top 3 of their position. And we were kind of looking like, huh? Like this year? You sure? So we already know how that goes at times.
But I think even with Matt Filer being in free agency, I think a lot of people have, I guess, lessened their potential or their hope for Chooks maybe because I don't know if this is just me. I just assumed if Filer came back, he'd be playing right tackle. Maybe it's because I'm a big Dotson fan, and I thought Dotson would just automatically get slotted into guard and Matt Filer would take Chooks' right tackle position. Maybe I'm talking about myself.
It sounds like it. Anytime you get this super optimistic and we going down a line of this guy got this like, yeah, that might be a little bit of you projecting, but it's all good though. It's all good.
You know, I'm hype on Dotson though.
And trust me, I like Dotson a lot. I'm hype on him as well. For me, it's a proven hype, and he's warranted that. To me, my issue comes when we start trying to put our Dotson projections on JC and BJ, on Zach Banner, on guys like Robert Spillane. Like, that to me is where we differ a little bit. Just because, like, I know it's way more difficult to do it for 16 games than it is for a smaller 4 to 5 game sample size, or 4 to 5 games, but you're part of a rotation, or you start 2, sit 1, start another one here. It's just different. It's different. And we've seen a lot of guys struggle when they get that new opportunity. Hopefully these guys are different though, because they were Pittsburgh colors. If this is any other team, we wouldn't be this optimistic about them. That's the thing that I always find funny, right? We're going down this list of our players and we are very optimistic. Everything always ends on a high note. If we did this with Cincinnati, we wouldn't be giving these guys any credit, any benefit of the doubt. There wouldn't be any type of, well, they could. It would never be that. But because it's Pittsburgh and we got our black and gold goggles on, it always ends on a high note. But this is crazy to me. I mean, we talked about with BJ Finney, right? BJ, 2 stops, right? And this isn't a shot at him, but these past 2 stops that he had, Seattle and Cincinnati, he couldn't see the field, right? Was released both places. He had just signed his deal with Seattle and got released not even a year later, right? But now all of a sudden, he's supposed to come here and either be the answer at center or at least give you this great depth at guards. You can just see how, for outsiders, they could look at that and be like, good luck with that. But for us, because it's Pittsburgh, we're like, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. Trust the process. It's going to work. But you can just see how when you just throw the factors out there and we take away our personal bias towards this, it looks a little reckless at times, man.
To be fair, though, I mean, it has always worked out. I mean, we do have a couple Super Bowls over the past however many years. But like,
no. Wait a minute now. Whoa. Oh, no.
How many divisions have we won?
How many Super Bowls have we been to since the Packers won, man?
No, I understand that. But we could be talking. We could be talking about the same teams, though. The Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints.
Okay.
Teams that are always in contention. I mean, the goal is ultimately to win Super Bowls. And we've put ourselves in good positions to do that year in and year out over these past 10 years. Now, I want to hark back on the Super Bowls, obviously. I guess more or less talking about the Ben regime that we've had. Like, we've always had success. That's why people think this. Like, we've always been in the mix. Our worst season was 8-8. I think that's happened 3 or 4 times.
But this is the reason why a lot of people get sick and tired of that narrative. Because since the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl appearance, how many Super Bowls have we been to since then? How many conference championships have we been to since then? How many playoff wins have we had since then? You can just see that number has drastically declined. So even though we always speak on the Super Bowls, we always speak under the Ben regime, of lately, it hasn't been this crazy productive outfit. It's been a lot of, okay, we look good at times, but we find a reason why it doesn't work out in the playoffs. Oh, it looks good here, but we still struggle come postseason time. People are getting tired of that, man. They are. I'm just throwing it out there. They tired of that narrative of, well, look at the success we've had. Because in the short term, these past 5 to 10 years, it's been drastically different. That's all I'm saying, man.
I get that, but at the same time, I mean, we're winning divisions. We're constantly putting ourselves in the mix. There's only one team that wins. Like I said, you could say this about virtually every other franchise in the NFL and the good ones that people look very highly upon. Like, I'm sure, I'm just trying to think, like, probably when you look at the NFL.
I guess my question to you is, what franchise do you view on the same level or same type of expectation that we put out here as Steeler Nation, that they say Super Bowl or bust?
I think
because that's what we always say, right?
I agree. The fairest way to put it is the Packers. In my opinion, I would say the Packers, the Saints, the Seahawks. They've been staples in the NFL over the past, how's it been? Like 10 years, 10, 15 years is like, this is the expectation Super Bowl. But I don't think anyone, if you're talking about outsiders from those franchises, are looking at them as like complete failures. I always see them as in the mix. You win a Super Bowl, you don't. Some breaks don't go your way, some injuries. It just happens.
So it sounds like the standard isn't the standard then, apparently. Is that what you're telling me?
No, it is. I just, like, what else do you want us to do, though?
Well, this is my thing. If the standard is the standard, if we are judged on Super Bowl wins, not divisions, not conference championship appearances, Super Bowl wins, if that's the barometer that we set, and we always say it, right? We're quick to throw out how many Super Bowl trophies we have. If that is the case, then we have been failing lately. And if we have been failing, that means that we cannot continue to do the same things and just say, well, it's worked in the past. We're the Pittsburgh Steelers and they always get it right, because that hasn't been the case lately. So the big thing that we're getting to is we can't stick to the status quo. We can't do what they've always done and expect different results, because that's the definition of insanity. And of lately, we have been looking real insane at times when we put together these rosters and we make these moves or don't make moves, but expect different people to step up and do outlandish things. And it results in what? Not having a playoff win since 2016? That's a long time right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. That's a long time.
I mean, in terms of how we've constructed our roster, though, you can't account for Shazier not having an NFL career anymore. And then just some of the, I mean, you having Fitzgerald, Toussaint, our running back 4, I think, or running back 3, fumbling against Denver, some of the injuries that we've had.
We said 2016. No, wait a minute. We said 2016. Fitz happened before that. That was 15.
I'm just talking about that stretch of playoff runs, though. I think, I mean, you're right that just we haven't had the success we've wanted in the playoffs, but there's a lot of things that have happened.
But this is my thing. Since that 2016 season, we haven't won a playoff game since then. Think about that, man. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. They missed the playoffs multiple years since then. Think about that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, man. That's not how it's supposed to be here. It's not. We both know that. That's not what if that's the case, we should go root for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If we're trying to just be mediocre, you win a division every once in a while, like that's cool. Cool. But that's not what we say here in Pittsburgh. That's all I'm getting to, man.
Yeah, I guess I think we're still in the mix. That's my thing. Despite some of these losses, I just don't really care. I just think we're going to be in the mix, because that's fair enough, man. In my opinion, that's been the case ever since we drafted Ben. We've always been in the mix. So that's how I'm just going to be thinking going forward.
I hope it leads to a Super Bowl ring this year. That's all I'm hoping, man. Because that is the standard. That is. But this last guy that we lost, Bud Dupree, man, on the 5-year, $82.5 million deal. Shout out to all the comp picks, though, right? Shout out to the comp picks. But yeah, it was zero chance we were going to do anything close to a deal like that. That's lovely, though, for him, man.
No, for sure. There was no chance at $16 million, 16 and a half, right?
What? 16 and a half. I mean, think about it.
That surprised me a little bit.
I mean, for me, yes and no. Yes, because we talked about the ACL element, right? We said some teams might shy away from that. But, wow. I think that they looked us all and said, nah, we're not scared of that ACL. We take that ACL, put a little Band-Aid on it. You'll be all right. Yeah. I mean, it would have been cool to see him do a 1 year to stay here in Pittsburgh, but Lord, that would have been crazy for him to even consider that, knowing that 16.5 per year was out there for him. Like, that is a ton of money, man. He's earned that money, man. What he's been able to, do throughout his career here, and especially getting hot as of late, man, he definitely earned this contract. So, man, I think that it's a good fit for him down there in Tennessee as well. Obviously, Variable, he does a good job from a defensive standpoint. Now, they got to improve their defense, especially that secondary. That secondary struggled a little bit. But the way that we say Ben struggled because of the O-line, in Tennessee, they say their secondary struggled because of the pass rush. So we're going to see what my man Bud Dupree could do down there, man, if he can make it shake for him one time. But, yeah, and in terms of, I guess, how it impacts us, I like Alex Highsmith, and I do think that he is going to be able to play well. But I do think we're going to feel this loss of Bud Dupree, man.
Yeah, for sure. He was, whenever you talked about players, we talked about positions, we were saying, oh, Al might be the biggest loss. But in terms of just players and where they were at in their career, Bud Dupree was definitely the best that we had going into free agency. And we saw what happened. We've talked about this how many times whenever he went down against the Ravens, what our defense was looking like.
Yeah.
The pressure that we were getting the first few weeks of the season was crazy with him, TJ Watt,
Bro,
with even Aguilar. We talked about Vince Williams earlier.
Yeah.
Like, we were stopping the run. We were getting pressure on the quarterback, and that just consistently waned throughout the season. I don't know how much the Devin Bush injury had to do with that. I'm assuming some of that.
The two... Yeah, so the Devin Bush injury had an impact, but the two that really hurt us the most were Vince. Remember, Vince went down, Vince didn't go down first. Tyson went down first for a little while. Vince had the COVID situation, and that's what ended up going on with those two, and we definitely started to feel it a lot more.
And then Bud gets hurt.
Yeah, and then Bud gets hurt. Yep. It was that little trio, it was like back-to-back all in that same time frame too, man.
Yeah, so it sucks. It sucks, but there was just no way we were going to be able to afford him at that. And then, I don't want to say it's like a sigh of relief, but it's just nice knowing at this point now, because we were just like, oh, what's Bud Dupree going to get? Is he going to come back on a one-year deal?
Man.
What's his market? Is it going to be 10 or 11 million? Now we know, okay, that's what he was getting. There was no shot of us getting that.
Yep.
Let's go Highsmith.
Highsmith, hey, hold on. Here he is. Highsmith the GOAT. Not doing right? Not doing right? That's not yet.
By week two, if he gets a couple sacks or something,
Highsmith's the GOAT. All right. I'm ready. Just trust me. I got it queued up. I'm ready to go, man. Man, but the positive though in this scenario, like I said, we know for a fact that it wasn't a scenario where, okay, we were at least in contention. If it would have been kind of how we looked at Tyson's deal, where it's like, dang, 2 for 6, could we have done that? Could we have matched that? If it would have been something like that, man, it would have hurt a lot more. But 5 for 82, man, there is zero chance that we were in that conversation, man, zero. But at least we do have a guy in terms of Alex Highsmith, and this is good on Kevin Colbert's part in terms of finding that piece a year early. No different than what we did with Chase Claypool as it pertains to Juju. Finding that piece a year early. Typically, they have been able to do that, and that's why usually when a person leaves or a bigger piece leaves, it's a little bit easier on them because you have a piece in place. Mike Hilton leaves. You got Cam Sutton here. Even though the draft was a little bit different for them, you can still see how they have in-house replacements already there. So the Steelers will be fine from that standpoint. But we do know that Bud Dupree, man, people talk about him as a pass rusher only, but we know how impactful he was in that run game. We know as pertains to him setting the edge, as pertains to him pursuing from the backside, like he was a very productive player. And you can still be a good player and not have that type of productivity that he was able to have over these past 2 years. That's why for me, it's just like with Highsmith, I think he'll do well. But to try to match that level of productivity, I would be very surprised if he does. I think he'll be good. But to live up to Bud Dupree's expectations right now, I think that's going to be a lot on him, man.
Yeah, for sure, especially in year 2. If you're talking year 4 or 5, still that's still going to be tough, but you could develop like that, and who knows? A lot of people speak very highly of him too.
No, man, Highsmith, he is a really good, fundamentally sound player. We highlighted him a couple of times, obviously, this year. And, I mean, we had a chance to talk to him in his interview right after he got drafted. And, I mean, he's just a good kid, good head on his shoulders and things like that. But it's certain things that no matter how much Highsmith develops, he can't physically do what Bud Dupree could do. And that's just, I mean, you see when you talk about drafting a guy in the first round, top 20 pick versus a third rounder, we know the talent difference starts to become a lot greater because the athletes, the crazy athletes, right? The 5 stars, the blue chips, those are usually your first round pick guys. Then from there, it's more development, more project pieces and things like that. So even if Highsmith continues to develop athletically, he's still going to be limited compared to what Bud was able to give you across the board. But I still think Highsmith is very smart and intelligent. And that's going to help him out early on for him right now, man, until everything else catches up, man. Just his above the net game, I think, is going to help him in a big way next season.
Let's go, Highsmith. We got anything else?
Man, I think that was it. We haven't had any new news. I've been checking throughout the show to make sure Juju hasn't signed anywhere, man. Yeah,
you got your finger on the pulse.
Man, I'm trying to do what I can every once in a while, baby. I mean, we saw where John Brown, that was a guy that we had on our docket that we wanted to potentially sign here.
Oh, yeah, this was terrible.
Yeah, man, he just signed with the Raiders. Actually, before we got onto the show, he had signed with them, man. So,
$3.75 million. I don't have it pulled up, but it was less than $4 million. Year.
Yeah, so I got the deal right here. It was I just had the deal. Shout out to technology. All right, it was oh, man.
Let's see if I could beat you to it.
Oh, 1 year up to 5.5 mil.
Okay.
With the Raiders. Yeah, 1 year worth up to 5.5.
With
I think
incentives.
with incentives, but the 3.5 or whatever it was guaranteed for him. Ah, man. I personally would have liked to have done that. We talked about how John Brown could have fit in this offense and what added element he could bring to them and stuff like that, especially from taking the top off the defense standpoint. But, man, yeah, that contract.
I know. As soon as I saw that,
I definitely would have liked for us to do that.
We were chopping it up a little bit before we pressed record. We saw it.
Yeah.
I was deflated, dude.
He would have fit beautifully for what we were doing. That would have fit a big time need in terms of, I mean, we highlighted what he could do from taking the top off the defense standpoint, man. So that definitely, that's a Debbie Downer right there, man.
Is there go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, who are you thinking?
Is there still Juju buzz back to Pittsburgh?
I mean, put it like this. The longer he goes without being signed, the higher the probability of him returning to Pittsburgh becomes. Because the longer these days go, the deals don't become more lucrative. It goes the other way. The longer from the start of this tampering period until actually free agency starts, things like that, the money starts to get smaller and smaller. And what does that benefit from a Pittsburgh Steelers standpoint? Well, that means that Juju's market might not be 10 million. It might be 7 million. But then if you see John Brown sign for 5.5, all right, well, our team's going to view, Juju market being higher than that, or are they going to view his market as lower than that? You can make a case for both. We obviously said with Juju,
sure.
Juju has a ton of productivity in his career, but we know the beginning part, the first 2 year part where he had the bulk of his productivity was largely in part because of what AB was able to do out there. He was a number 2 receiver. We saw since AB has left, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of if it's injuries, regardless of if it's Ben, regardless if it was the O-line, the productivity has went down. So when you look at John Brown, it's a little bit different, right? With John, he's shown that, hey, man, he was the guy in Buffalo before Diggs came there. He was a 1,000-yard receiver, 100-catch guy. Then he showed that he could be a high-end number 2 receiver when Diggs did come there. We've seen him do it at multiple stops. We saw him have success in Baltimore. We saw him have success in Arizona as well. But if his market is 1 for 5.5, that can make you question what Juju's market could potentially be because of those factors that we just laid out right there. So the longer it goes, the higher the chances are that Juju could be coming back, man.
Yeah, because at one point, I think it was the first day with the tampering and where you could agree upon deals. Everyone was saying there's no shot Juju's coming back. There's reports saying Juju's told his teammates he's really unlikely to be coming back.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I think some of the odds didn't even have Pittsburgh in the mix anymore, and they were going like 10 teams deep. But now,
excuse me,
like you said, the more time goes on, and then all of a sudden, randomly, Juju's commenting on like Juju fan accounts on Instagram saying like they're posting fake news about his free agency, like they're. I think it was just something as simple as like there's rumors that Jacksonville offered Juju a deal.
A 1 year deal or something, right?
I don't know if there was something that had to do with the Steelers attached to that statement, but then he's like, bro, you guys are just posting fake stuff. Like, I'm unfollowing you guys. So like with that, it almost points to maybe him coming back to Pittsburgh a little bit with some of the reaction that he's had over the past day.
Yeah, I agree, man. Because when I saw the one where he was, I think they had leaked the DM or something like that. And they said that he had, and the DM said that he was offered a 1 year deal by the Steelers. And he was considering or something like that. And that's when he came out and was like, yo, this is fake news as well. But it's definitely been a crazy, time for him with this situation. But the wide receiver market through free agency has been wacky, right? We saw Nelson Aguilar get 2-year, $26 million deal from the Patriots as soon as the market opened. And I don't think any of us view Nelson Aguilar as a better receiver than John Brown or Juju. I mean, if you talk to some of these Eagle guys, they think he can't catch a cold. So just to see that type of deal, you're like, I don't know. But hopefully time will tell about Juju, man, sooner than later. But yeah, the longer this thing goes for him, the higher the chances are that he'll be back, from my perspective at least.
Yeah, I thought it was for sure he was gone, but as the days are going, I'm not really hearing anything about Juju and other teams outside of some of those fan accounts where Juju kind of went back at him. But yeah, who knows? At least that could be something. If Juju can come back, that'd be nice. We talked about
Absolutely,
need. He wasn't at the top of the list, but now we don't have to address receiver at all. We still may not, but it'd be nice to just have that extra guy.
Yeah, well, if you could get him back and it's cheaper, then you take him over whatever rookie you were going to bring in, right? Mid-round rookie, and you already know what Juju is going forward.
Or even any other potential free agent outside of John Brown, Sanders, or AB. Like, who else do you really want?
Very true, man. With Golden Tate, he's still out there available right now, I believe. So, I mean,
if
that was the other guy we mentioned.
Or a little bit more for Juju. I mean, we were talking Juju in the 13, 14 double-digit range, but if it gets down to single digits, it's not even a question.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So, time will tell, man. Time will tell. But it's like I said, the wide receiver market has definitely been weird. Emmanuel Sanders, he just signed with Buffalo. I love that move for them. Yeah, I think that's a great move for them. You put him out there with Diggs, Cole Beasley, man, that's some crazy route running. Gabriel Davis, the rookie, we already know what he was able to do up there. Man, that's just another high quality piece for that Bills offense, man. And we know what they were able to do last year, man. So that's a nice pickup. I wouldn't have been opposed to him coming here, but like you said, for the money, that's the thing. It's like you're seeing these deals, like, man, that's not too crazy. It's not like they're throwing out crazy money right now to these guys, man.
Oh, yeah. If you would have said Emmanuel Sanders for $6 million, John Brown for this 3.5 gets up to $5 million. Right. A couple weeks ago, whenever we were talking about potential receivers, who's coming to the Steelers, who's not going to be here, who could we re-sign, I would have been like, come on, let's make this happen right now.
Yeah, man. Without a doubt, bro. I'm with you 100%. But yeah, man.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know if there's going to be any more restructurings or releasing with the Steelers coming up. I'm assuming it would be restructuring, not any releasings. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting, and that's what I'm hearing as well. More restrictions at this stage because they're already in compliance, and it's going to only happen when they necessarily need to. If they don't see a person that they absolutely love in free agency, we're not going to see them make a move in terms of restructures right now. That just is what it is, man.
Do they just want to keep a lot of flexibility then for the upcoming seasons?
That's what it's looking like. It looks like they don't want to put too many bills on next year because obviously we saw how that hurt them this year. You keep kicking the can, you keep restructuring, you keep going to the credit card, and eventually that credit card maxes out. Eventually it's like, yo, the bill is due. We got to pay it. All right. It looks like the Steelers are like, look, man, we paying our bill right now. We're going to pay it this upcoming season. And after that, we are not messing with y'all again. That's what it sounds like to me. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm not at all.
Is that all we got?
It is, man. It is. But shoot, I've been enjoying this free agency vibe. I hope you have as well. And I'm looking forward to see what else transpires in the next 48, 24, however many days and hours that we got left this week, man. So shout out to everybody for tuning in and rocking with us, man. We definitely appreciate y'all. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time.
Peace.